Rapheal Davis, thank you so much for joining the show today. It's the Rec Room back with another episode and college basketball in full swing, and we're getting things going. So, without further ado, I don't want to belabor this point. Is like we know that you became a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year and became one of those key cogs in Purdue's system in the early 2010s. And now that you've moved into the broadcasting industry, that's something more I would love to know about. But as we're speaking on your basketball career, being a Fort Wayne guy, going to La Lumiere, and then moving on to West Lafayette with Purdue, how would you assess kind of what happened during your time at Purdue and what impact did Purdue University and playing Big Ten hoop have on you?
No, I know it's a good question. I think first hearing that I played in the early 2010s makes me feel a little bit old. I guess I never thought about it like that. But no, Purdue was big time for me. I committed to play for Purdue my freshman year in high school. So
Sure.
I know nothing more than being a Boilermaker from through high school through college. On the floor, Coach Paint was always bigger. It was always bigger than the ball. It was always bigger than the game. It was always you got to use basketball to have a good life. Like you come to Purdue, you play high major basketball, you should be able to, when the ball stop bouncing, you should be able to have a good life. And coach preached that and coach stood by that. So I say, I mean, Purdue was a great time. I actually had my first daughter while I was on campus at Purdue. My oldest daughter, she was born my sophomore year. So she got to be a baby boiler, literally. Got to go to
Yes.
those early. So it's been cool being able to go from Purdue and then played a little bit over in China. Then came back into the work world and fell back on my Purdue degree and got hooked up in the corporate world by a Purdue alum. So I think Purdue is one of those places where a lot of universities and a lot of schools they will preach family. They'll preach life after basketball. That coaches will tell you, "I got you for forever, whatever you need from me." And similar to Michigan State, and Izzo paints of that same manner. He's of that same cloth, I would say. So
Mm.
Purdue was one of those times where we started out our first 2 years at Purdue were rocky. We were last place in the Big Ten my sophomore year, and then it just was before the transfer portal, before all of that stuff. But we had, I think, 7 guys, 8 guys leave the program. We were only returning, I think, 4 scholarship guys, and then we filled the roster with some freshmen. And then ever since, Purdue's been off to the races. And I think it's been fun to kind of see where they are now, knowing where they were just 10, 11 years ago. We were last place in the league. And to see Coach Paint get the credit that I know he deserved, because I know he was doing the right things then too. Just guys weren't buying in. And it's cool to see the program as one of the better programs in the country.
Yes, yes, undoubtedly. And I'm really appreciative of what you said about being cut from the same cloth because I think that's so true throughout the conference and with some of the older guard of collegiate coaches. But talk to me about how important it's been for you to be able to go back and to be a part of it continually after you've left and have been gone for, 7, 8 years, somewhere in there, and just having that long-standing tie and relationship.
Oh, it's cool. I mean, it's especially when you think about how long ago it's been, being able to go back to campus and be able to still interact with the fans, some of the same fans that were there when I played, and still being able to
Mm,
have my relationship there with them, go tailgating with former teammates, see
yes.
former paint crew members. One of my better friends now is Melissa Hunt. She was in the paint crew when I was there when we sucked, and she stuck through the times just like I stuck through the times, and now we both kind of get to look back and laugh at those times because where the program is now. So then
Yes.
also having the luxury of having Coach Paint still be there is a plus. It's always an advantage when your college coach gets to last this long, and hopefully he can get a lifetime deal. But he
Mm.
always welcomes us back in the practice and the games, whether it be myself and my family. He spent time with my kids. My youngest son has been in practice running around, dribbling the ball, throwing it all around, and then also just letting my kids. I have a foundation, a nonprofit foundation, and Coach Payne allows our elementary kids to come in and watch practice, come in and take pictures with the guys, come in to tour the facilities and things of that sort. So Purdue is all for me at this point is it's just family. It's just a thing where I understand Coach Payne. He understands me and their staff. No matter who's on staff, you got PJ Thompson on staff, who was my point guard at Purdue. So it's I didn't even realize it's been that long since I've been going to school, but having that revolving door and always be able to go back, it's what you choose your college coach for. You choose a place to where when you get married, when you have kids, you can bring those kids back and show them the locker room and show them where you used to play ball and feel comfortable. Just sometimes I don't even hit up Coach Paint or the coaches. I just come. I just know what
Mm.
time practice is. It's been the same time since before I was at Purdue. So I know what time practice is, and sometimes I just show up. And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't even go to practice. I just show up and I'm walking around and I just randomly see Coach Paint. And he said, I didn't know you would be here, and I didn't know I'd be here neither. So it's one of the things where it's something I'm blessed to have. I'm lucky to be fortunate to be a part of because the Boilermaker family in the Boilermaker way it's a real thing, and not too many programs have it.
No, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And in that same vein, there is one thing that Indiana has as a state, which a lot of states don't have, which
Yep.
is a love and affinity and deep-rooted history within
Yep.
the game of basketball. Why do you think it is that Indiana has gravitated towards the game, and where does that tradition come from? That I know is true within IU, within Purdue, within the high school ranks. It's
Yep.
something that just feels like it supersedes all else within the state.
I just think it's just the I mean, coming up, I guess not coming up, but you look back at the times, you got guys like John Wooden, you got
Mhm.
coaching at Purdue, you got guys and stories that you hear about. Oscar Robertson being in Indianapolis, you got
Yep.
the Rick Mount stories. It's just a long history of high level basketball, high level hoops. I mean, Indiana's run in the '80s with Isaiah Thompson and those guys winning those national championships with Coach Knight, and then you got Gene Katie coming into Purdue in the
Mhm.
'80s and starting to kind of make his way late '80s, early '90s, really kind of making his presence felt. And I think those two guys really sparked a bigger interest in college basketball in the state. When you get Bobby Knight, you get Gene Katie, they start battling for not just for games and but recruits and high school guys, and it's the whole thing. So I grew up, it's just kind of what you know, the fundamentals of it. And when you don't really understand until you go somewhere else. I moved down to Georgia for a couple of years, and basketball is just different there. I mean, it's football, football, football. And if you can play basketball, if you can run and jump, but you don't, the guys down the South don't necessarily have the skill sets and the fundamentals that the guys in Indiana do. But the guys in
Mhm.
Indiana don't have the athleticism. So it's a give take there. But I say Indiana is one of those places where from start to from baby ball to college, you just grow up loving the game. You get Braden Smiths and the Fletcher Lawyers, but you also get the Jay Niveys of the world. So
Sure.
it's just real cool to grow up in a state with that can produce so much talent. Even in Fort Wayne being a small town, and you go back to just from my era, you get Russell Bird, who was a Michigan State guy, you get Deshaun Thomas, Ohio State, myself, Bryson and Brenton Scott, both Division I players. I mean, VJ Beecham was at Notre Dame, Caleb Swanigan, obviously. Then you had Big Steve at Dayton. I mean, just my high school, my 4 years, you think from the guys that came up with me, we probably had 22 Division I players coming out of just Fort Wayne. So that's I look at my class in 2012 in the state of Indiana, probably one of the only classes maybe in the country where you had 25 to 30 Division I players in one class in one state, high major Division I. So I think Indiana is just different. Ball is different in Indiana, and there's nowhere else like it.
Man. Okay, I have to tell you, I really appreciate you diving into that. That was good richness. I mean, that educated even me. But here's what I gotta know because you hit on it, and I thought it was so important. Is like there are some things that change, and there are some things that remain the same. And I think you mentioned it not only with Coach Painter and the way that things are orchestrated, but then with the talk about fundamentals versus athleticism.
Yeah.
College basketball and college sports is shifting so heavily right now. There's been a paradigm kind of
Yep.
thing that's going on.
Yep.
What is your sense of everything that has gone down in sports, and how has it changed even since you were in college at Purdue?
No, I mean, obviously the number one thing, I mean, guys were transferring when I played, so it's not a crazy thing because I mean, every year I was at Purdue. Well, not my freshman year, but the last 3 years I was at Purdue, we had transfers. It was just the grad transfers. The grad transfers, you could transfer, you didn't have to sit out, all of that stuff. So I kind of dealt with the transfer, not the portal, but John Noctis was a transfer, our point guard my junior year. He started games for us. Johnny Hill was our point guard my senior year. He was a transfer. He started games for us. So again, one of the bigger differences is NIL because I couldn't imagine some of our team making more than our coaches. How do you like some of our guys? It's just everybody's different. Some guys respect what they respect. And I could see some of our guys kind of looking at a coach with a side eye because they were making more than them. You know what I mean? So I think that's changed a bunch.
Mm,
Guys don't necessarily play as hard anymore. That's changed a little bit. It's become more of a numbers game with threes and layups and things of that sort. And obviously Steph Curry changed the game while I was in college, but it's gotten a little softer. I mean, coaches can't necessarily get into you like they used to. I know Izzo used to. You could hear Izzo in a timeout when you're coming off the floor ripping a guy. You just can't do certain things anymore. So I
sure,
mean, those things have changed, but it's also gotten more skilled. The game has gotten more skilled. You see teams are scoring more points. They're getting up and down. It's a fun brand of basketball to watch. But I think at the end of the day, with the Big Ten, you got to rebound, you got to defend in order to win the league. And I think as things change, some things remain the same. And in the league like the Big Ten, four new teams from the West Coast they're not going to change how you win the league. You win this
sure.
league with toughness, and I think that's going to stand true this season.
Mm. Let's segue off of that. I got two more quick things for you, and then we'll let you go because I know you said content day and all that. First thing is, what is something that Purdue has to do to be in that Final Four conversation this year?
Oh, that's a good one. I think going off of early on this season, if they can't rebound, they won't be able to win big time games. They were even on the glass their last two games with Yale and Northern Kentucky, and you look at it, and this is team is every game is different, but
Sure.
UIC, and not even just all rebounded, but Yale pounded Purdue inside. They were plus 26 inside. And you think UIC, who played Northwestern last night, UIC pounded Yale inside. UIC out rebounded Yale. And then Northwestern turns around and does that to UIC. So it's a thing where I think Purdue's physicality is going to have to be better. Rebounding the basketball, got a big test against Alabama, Cliff and Morey and those guys. I mean, if you can't rebound the ball against them, they're going to live on the offensive glass. But then also defensively, keeping the basketball in front. I mean, Yale, they're not a dominating post presence team. Offensive rebounds hurt, but they were just getting whipped off the bounce. Just getting
Mm,
beat off the bounce, getting beat in the middle of the lane, making play. And then Yale was able to make plays for others. But I think perimeter defense is going to be something that this team grows with. And I think just kind of embracing the physicality of the game, rebounding wise. And obviously, you got some no Zach Edey. You got some new guys in there: Will Berg, Caleb Furst, Riley Burgess, Daniel Jacobson went down with an injury. But between those guys, however many minutes they play at that position, they got to at least average 10 rebounds as a combination. When you look at those
mm,
three. And that's kind of
mm,
how I even look at Michigan State. You look at Jackson Kohler, you look at Zapala, and you look at those guys, you put their numbers together, especially when you look at like a Cooper. Cooper and Zapala, they're not going to be on the floor at the same time. So you smash their minutes together. And if you're getting your center, and I look at Northwestern the same way, Luke Hunger and Matt Nicholson. And last night against Dayton, you take that loss on the road if you're Northwestern, but Matt Nicholson and Luke Hunger combined for 6 points and 5 rebounds in 40 minutes. That's just not good enough. And do you think last night against Dayton, they combined for 16 points and 9 rebounds? And that's
mm,
kind of where you want your center position to be. That's kind of so for Purdue, if you can get Will Berg, Caleb Furst, if they're going to be your center combination playing 35 to 40 minutes, you want those guys to average around 12 points and 10 rebounds. Maybe that's 6 and 5 for both of them. And I think that there will give Purdue enough because TKR, Trey Kaufman ran to be an all-conference guy. Braden Smith, obviously. Fletcher, obviously. That gives you three, but then you need that center position to just be productive. And I think that could kind of do wonders for Purdue.
mm. Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. Hey, thank you so much for doing it. Before we go, if you got a quick more second, uh, what is one story that you can think of that kind of resonated with you from your time at Purdue that showcase the culture of what the university is about, what the program's about, and kind of how the team ran and operated.
No, I'll say it's just discipline. I mean, with Coach Paint, it was I guess the best story I got for that would be Coach Paint cared about breakfast. Like us getting up in the morning and going to breakfast at the food hall, at the whatever you call it, the how am I say it, the rec center, but at the dining hall, I mean. So
Sure.
Coach Paint, no matter you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, lived on campus, lived off of campus, every morning you had to wake up and go check in at breakfast. Whether you ate breakfast or not, you had to go and sign your name with a pencil. And coach was to the point where he knew everybody's handwriting. He knew if guys were cheating. He knew if guys weren't making it. And if you didn't go to breakfast, you had the punishment. And as a captain of the team, you look at Mackey Arena, you look from the bottom to the top, you got to run 100 of those just for not going to breakfast. So I think it just shows you how attention to details matter. Things outside of basketball matter. Discipline matters. And
Sure.
Coach Payne's one of those guys where he'll not play you for not going to breakfast, no matter if you're
Mm,
the best player or the worst player. So I think it shows you that Purdue abides by certain standards that you can't cut corners and you just got to do it. But if you do what you're supposed to do, you don't go to study hall. You know what I mean? If you take care of your business, you don't have to do certain things. I think that shows you a greater lesson in life to where you just take care of your business. You go about your business the right way. You don't have to do all the extra stuff.
mm, undoubtedly. Hey, thank you so much for doing it. I appreciate your time. And man, this has been really cool to hear you speak on the program and what all is happening within the scope of college ball. So thank
Oh
you.
no, I
And
appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on, man. It was fun. Good time.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's been it for the Rec Room, folks. Appreciate your time and excited to reveal this show with Rapheal Davis. Stay tuned for a bunch more.